The December wind cut through Emma Collins like 1,000 tiny blades as she huddled beneath the glass awning of Sterling Tech Industries. Her fingers, cracked and bleeding from the cold, clutched a cardboard sign that read, "Architect, willing to work. God bless." The words had faded from rain and shame over the past 3 months. She didn't look up anymore when the glass doors opened. She'd learned that hope was more painful than hunger. "Move along. You're blocking the entrance." The security guard's voice had lost its threatening edge weeks ago, settling into routine annoyance. "Just until the wind stops, Marcus. Please." Emma's voice cracked. She knew his name. She knew he had a daughter in college. She knew he saved his lunch leftovers for her on Thursdays. "Miss Sterling's car is coming. You know the rules." Emma gathered her 3 plastic bags, everything she owned in the world, and started to move. Then the black Mercedes pulled up, and she froze. She'd seen Victoria Sterling before, of course. Everyone had. The tech billionaire's face was on every business magazine, every financial news segment. At 35, Victoria had built a sustainable technology empire worth $8 billion. Forbes called her the Green Queen of Silicon Valley. But standing there, watching Victoria emerge from the car in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Emma's entire former life, something inside Emma finally broke. "Must be nice," Emma heard herself say. The words came out bitter, sharp. "Must be nice to never wonder where you'll sleep, never feel your stomach eating itself." Victoria stopped. Her heels clicked once, twice on the pavement as she turned. Her gray eyes, cold as January rain, fixed on Emma. "Excuse me?" Marcus moved forward. "Ma'am, I'll handle." I asked her a question. Victoria's voice could cut diamonds. She stepped closer, and Emma could smell expensive perfume, something woody and complex. "You think you know what's nice about my life?" Emma should have backed down, should have apologized, should have been grateful for Marcus's Thursday leftovers and the occasional $10 bill from guilty passers-by. Instead, she stood up. "I know you've never had to choose between eating and keeping your phone charged. Never had to pretend you're just resting your eyes in a subway car because you have nowhere else to go. Never had someone look through you like you're already dead." Victoria's jaw tightened. For a long moment, they stood there. Billionaire and homeless woman, separated by an impossible chasm of wealth and privilege, yet something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, or challenge. "How long have you been on the streets?" 3 months, 2 weeks, 4 days. Emma's voice dropped. "But who's counting? And before that? I was an architect, junior partner at Morrison & Associates, specialized in sustainable urban housing." The words tasted like ash, like the life she'd lost. Victoria's eyes narrowed, and Emma saw something flicker there. Interest, maybe, or calculation. "Morrison folded last year, the pension scandal. You read about it?" Emma laughed hollow. "I lived it. Lost my job, my savings, my apartment. My girlfriend left me for someone with a stable future." She gestured at her bags. "Turns out love has a price point." "Everything does." Victoria pulled out her phone, typed something rapidly. "What's your name?" "Emma. Emma Collins." "Well, Emma Collins, former architect." Victoria slipped her phone back into her pocket. "I'm getting married in 3 days." The statement hung in the air like a grenade. "Congratulations?" Emma didn't understand why Victoria was still talking to her. "It's a business arrangement. James Hartwell III, old money, political connections, the kind of alliance that opens doors even I can't unlock." Victoria's voice was flat, mechanical. "The wedding is at the plaza, 500 guests. The merger of Sterling Tech and Hartwell Industries will be worth $20 billion. That's impressive." Emma still didn't understand. "It's a cage." For just a second, Victoria's mask slipped, and Emma saw something raw underneath. "I don't love him. I don't even like him. But my board, my investors, my family, they've all made it clear. This marriage secures my company's future, secures everything I've built." "So why are you telling me this?" Victoria stepped closer, close enough that Emma could see the fine lines around her eyes, the exhaustion she hid beneath perfectly applied makeup. "Because 3 days ago, I realized I'd rather lose everything than marry him." But I can't just call it off. The scandal would destroy Sterling Tech. The board would vote me out within a week. I need a different scandal, one that makes marrying James impossible. Victoria's gray eyes locked onto Emma's. I need a fiancé, a real one. Someone who'll stand beside me when I tell my family, my board, the entire world that I'm not marrying James Hartwell because I'm in love with someone else. Emma's laugh came out strangled. You're insane. Probably. Victoria pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. But I'm also desperate. 6 months. That's all I need. 6 months to restructure my company, secure my position, make myself untouchable. 6 months where you pretend to be my fiancé. Why me? Why not hire some actress, someone who actually knows how to? Because you're real. Victoria's voice softened, just slightly. Because when you looked at me just now, you saw me, not my money, not my empire. You saw a woman in a cage, same as you're in one. Different bars. Same trap. Emma shook her head. I can't. I don't know anything about your world. I'd embarrass you in 5 minutes. You were a junior partner at a prestigious firm. You know how to talk to wealthy clients, how to navigate professional settings. Victoria held out the card. On the back is an address, a hotel suite. It's paid for under your name. There's a dress in the closet. Vera Wang, your size. I'm good at estimating measurements. Tomorrow night there's a charity gala. Show up in that dress, and we'll talk details. And if I don't? Victoria's mask slipped back into place, cold and impenetrable. Then you spend another night under my building's awning, and I marry a man I despise, and we both stay in our cages until they kill us. She turned to walk away, then stopped. Emma, you said no one sees you anymore, that they look through you like you're already dead. Victoria glanced back over her shoulder. I see you, and you're not trash. You're a survivor who got dealt an impossible hand, so put on that wedding dress tomorrow night and come with me. Or don't. But at least you'll have one night in a warm bed to think about it. The Mercedes door closed with a soft click. The car pulled away, and Emma stood there holding a business card that promised either salvation or a different kind of destruction. Marcus approached cautiously. Miss Collins? You okay? Emma looked down at the card. Victoria's private number was scrawled on the back in elegant script. Below it, just 2 words. Choose life. No, Emma whispered. But I haven't been okay in a very long time. She picked up her plastic bags and walked toward the address Victoria had written, toward the Plaza Hotel, toward a hotel suite and a Vera Wang dress, and a choice that terrified her more than another night on the streets, because the streets, at least, she understood. And you? Have you ever had to choose between your heart and your family? Between safety and something that might destroy you? The hotel suite was obscene. Emma stood in the doorway for a full minute, unable to move forward. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, the winter trees skeletal against the evening sky. The living room was larger than her old apartment. Cream-colored furniture, abstract art that probably cost more than her student loans. A marble bathroom visible through an open door that gleamed like something from a magazine. And hanging in the bedroom closet, protected by a garment bag, the dress. Emma dropped her plastic bags by the door and walked slowly across carpet so thick it felt like walking on clouds. Her reflection caught in a mirror, hollow-eyed, gaunt, dirty. She looked away quickly. The bathroom had one of those rainfall showers, the kind she'd once designed into luxury condos for clients who complained about water pressure. Emma turned it on, watched steam rise, and felt something crack inside her chest. She showered for 40 minutes, washed her hair 3 times with shampoo that smelled like lavender and cost more per ounce than she'd spent on food in a week. Scrubbed her skin until it hurt, trying to wash away not just dirt, but the shame that had burrowed into her bones. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel softer than any blanket she'd ever owned, she found clothes laid out on the bed. Designer jeans, a cashmere sweater, underwear still in packaging, and a note in Victoria's precise handwriting. For tonight. The dress is for tomorrow. There's food in the refrigerator. Eat. Rest. I'll send a car at 7 p.m. V. Emma should have felt grateful. Instead, she felt like a doll being dressed for display. But she was also starving. The refrigerator was stocked with more food than she'd seen in months. Fresh fruit, gourmet sandwiches, yogurt, juice. Emma's hands shook as she pulled out a sandwich, sat on the couch, and took a bite. It tasted like turkey and Swiss, and the complete collapse of her pride. She ate 3 sandwiches, an apple, a banana, drank an entire bottle of orange juice. Then she curled up on the couch and cried so hard she thought she might break apart. The knock came at exactly 7 p.m. Emma had spent the day in a strange fugue state, sleeping in the bed, sheets like silk, mattress like a cloud, eating carefully measured portions to avoid making herself sick, staring out at Central Park, and trying to remember who she used to be. The dress hung in the closet like a ghost. She'd looked at it once, touched the fabric, silk and lace and dreams, and walked away. But now the knock had come, and reality was waiting. Emma opened the door to find a woman in her 50s, elegantly dressed, with kind eyes and a professional smile. "Miss Collins, I'm Patricia, Miss Sterling's personal stylist. May I come in?" Emma stepped aside, mute. Patricia swept into the room with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She set down a makeup case, a jewelry box, a pair of shoes that glittered like captured stars. "Miss Sterling said you might be nervous. That's perfectly normal." Patricia's voice was warm, non-judgmental. "Why don't we start with hair? We'll take this one step at a time." "I don't know if I can do this." Patricia paused, met Emma's eyes. "Can I tell you something? I've worked with Miss Sterling for 8 years. I've never seen her look at anyone the way she looked when she called me about you." "What do you mean?" "Like she saw something worth saving." Patricia smiled. "Now sit. Let me make you beautiful, though honestly, dear, you already are. You've just forgotten." 2 hours later, Emma stood in front of the full-length mirror and didn't recognize herself. The dress was ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves, fitted through the bodice and flowing to the floor. It wasn't a traditional wedding gown. Too modern, too sleek, but it was breathtaking. Patricia had styled her hair in soft waves, applied makeup that enhanced rather than masked, chosen diamond earrings that caught the light. Emma looked like someone who belonged in Victoria Sterling's world, which meant she looked like a lie. "You're stunning," Patricia said softly. "Truly. I feel like I'm playing dress-up. Aren't we all?" Patricia zipped up her cases. "The car is waiting downstairs. Remember, shoulders back, head high. You're not asking for anything. You're choosing to be there." After Patricia left, Emma stood alone in the suite, looking at the woman in the mirror, a woman who'd been invisible for 3 months, who'd lost everything and survived anyway, who was about to step into a world that would either save her or destroy her completely. Her phone, the one she'd kept charged at library outlets and McDonald's, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The car is here. You don't have to do this, but I hope you will. V." Emma picked up the small clutch Patricia had left, took one last look at the stranger in the mirror, and walked out the door. If you're enjoying this story, follow the channel so you don't miss the next chapters. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. The Metropolitan Museum of Art glittered like a jewel box. Emma had been to galas before, professional events, fundraisers for architectural preservation, but nothing like this. The Great Hall was transformed into a winter wonderland, ice sculptures catching light from 1,000 candles, champagne flowing like water, women in gowns that cost more than cars, men in tuxedos discussing mergers over canapes. And standing at the top of the stairs, waiting, was Victoria Sterling. She wore a midnight blue gown that hugged every curve, her dark hair swept up to reveal a long neck and shoulders that seemed carved from marble. But it was her eyes that caught Emma, those gray eyes that had looked at her yesterday with something between desperation and hope. Now they held only question. Victoria descended the stairs slowly, and Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed to run. These people would know she didn't belong here. They'd see through her in seconds. But then Victoria reached her, and the world narrowed to just the 2 of them. "You came." Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm terrified." "Good, so am I." Victoria held out her hand. "Ready to blow up my life?" Emma looked at that outstretched hand, perfectly manicured, wearing a ring that probably cost more than Emma's entire education, and made a choice. She took it. Victoria's hand was warm, solid, real. She laced her fingers through Emma's and turned to face the gala. and Emma felt the moment everyone noticed. Conversations stuttered. Heads turned. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd like a wave. Who is that with Victoria? Is that... No, it can't be... Does James know? Victoria squeezed Emma's hand gently. Breathe. They're going to stare. Let them. They walked into the crowd together, and it parted like the Red Sea. Emma felt hundreds of eyes on them, assessing, judging, calculating. She wanted to disappear, to become invisible again. Then an older man in an expensive tuxedo blocked their path. Victoria, we need to talk. His voice was ice. Father, how lovely to see you. Victoria's tone matched his. This is Emma Collins. Emma, my father, Richard Sterling. Richard didn't even glance at Emma. Your office. Now, I'm afraid I'm busy. Now, Victoria. He turned and walked toward a private gallery, clearly expecting to be followed. Victoria's jaw tightened, but she kept hold of Emma's hand. Come with me. You need to meet the monster. They followed Richard into a smaller gallery, currently closed to the gala. He shut the door and whirled on Victoria. What the hell do you think you're doing? Attending a charity gala. It's for children's literacy. You remember literacy, don't you, Father? That thing you value so much? Don't be smart with me. Who is she? And why are half the guests photographing you holding her hand like... He couldn't even finish the sentence. Like she's my girlfriend? Victoria smiled, cold and sharp. Because she is. The silence was deafening. Richard's face went purple. You will call James Hartwell right now and apologize for this tasteless joke. The wedding is in 3 days. There's not going to be a wedding. The hell there isn't. Do you have any idea what you're jeopardizing? The Hartwell merger. I don't love him, Father. Victoria's voice cracked, just slightly. I never did. I tried to explain, but you wouldn't listen. The board wouldn't listen. So here we are. Richard finally looked at Emma, and his gaze was pure contempt. You. What do you want? Money? A payoff to disappear? Emma felt her face burn, but before she could respond, Victoria stepped between them. Don't you dare speak to her like that. She's obviously after your money, Victoria. Look at her. She's probably some con artist who... She's the woman I love. The words came out strong, clear. A lie delivered like truth, and I'd rather lose Sterling Tech than lose her. The silence that followed was suffocating. Richard stared at his daughter like she'd grown a second head. You're serious? Completely. Then you're a fool. He straightened his tie, his face settling into cold contempt. The board will hear about this. By tomorrow morning, I'll have votes to remove you as CEO. You'll lose everything. Maybe, but I'll be free. Victoria turned toward the door, still holding Emma's hand. Come on, let's go enjoy the party. They walked out together, and Emma felt Victoria's hand trembling in hers. The gala had transformed. Now everyone was staring openly, whispering behind hands, phones out to capture the scandal. Emma saw a young man in a tuxedo, handsome, furious, pushing through the crowd toward them. James, Victoria murmured. Here we go. James Hartwell III was everything Emma expected. Tall, wealthy, entitled. He stopped in front of them, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. Is it true? Are you actually going to humiliate me like this? James, I'm sorry. I tried to tell you. Tell me what? That you're a... He caught himself, glanced around at the watching crowd. We had an arrangement, Victoria. A business deal. Which is exactly the problem. Victoria's voice softened. You deserve someone who loves you. Really loves you. I'm not that person. And she is? James looked at Emma like she was something he'd scraped off his shoe. Some nobody you picked up off the street. Emma felt the words like a slap. Because he was right. She was a nobody. A homeless woman playing dress-up in a world where she didn't belong. But then, Victoria turned to her, and something in her gray eyes made Emma's breath catch. She's everything, Victoria said quietly, and for just a moment, Emma almost believed her. James made a sound of disgust and stormed away. The crowd buzzed with excitement, scandal, shock. Emma heard fragments. Never would have guessed. Career suicide. Who is that woman? Victoria pulled Emma toward the exit. We need to leave. Now. They practically ran to the car. Victoria's hand still locked with Emma's. As soon as the door closed, sealing them inside the Mercedes, Victoria let go and pressed her hands to her face. God, that was... She started laughing, but it sounded like crying. I really did it. I just blew up my entire life on national television. Emma didn't know what to say. She'd just watched Victoria Sterling sacrifice everything, her family, her company, her reputation, for a lie. For her. Why? The word came out strangled. Why would you do that? You barely know me. Victoria lowered her hands, and her eyes were red-rimmed, fierce. Because I'm 35 years old, and I've never made a single choice for myself. Not one. Every decision, every move, every relationship, all calculated to build the empire, please the board, satisfy my father. She looked at Emma with something like desperation. And then I saw you yesterday, and you were so angry, so real, and I thought, what if I could be that real, just once? So I'm what? Your rebellion? Your midlife crisis? You're my chance. Victoria's voice broke. My one chance to find out who I am when I'm not performing for everyone else. The car pulled up to the plaza. They sat in silence for a long moment. I can't do this, Emma finally said. I can't be your savior, Victoria. I can barely save myself. I'm not asking you to save me. Victoria opened her door. I'm asking you to give me 6 months to figure out how to save myself. And in return, I'll give you back your life, your career, your dignity, everything you lost. She stepped out of the car, then leaned back in. Room 2407. We need to talk details, contracts, ground rules. But Emma, thank you for tonight, for being brave enough to stand beside me. A ghost of a smile. Even if you were terrified the whole time. Victoria walked into the hotel, leaving Emma alone in the Mercedes with a choice that would change everything. Tell me in the comments what city you're listening from. I love hearing where you all are in this journey together. Room 2407 was a penthouse suite that made Emma's room look modest. Victoria had changed into jeans and a sweater, the first time Emma had seen her in anything casual. Without the armor of designer gowns and makeup, she looked younger, more vulnerable, more human. Wine? Victoria held up a bottle. I probably shouldn't. I haven't eaten much real food in months. It'll go straight to my head. Good. We could both use some lowered inhibitions for this conversation. Victoria poured 2 glasses anyway, handed one to Emma. Sit, please. Emma perched on the edge of a couch that probably cost more than her old car. Victoria sat across from her, close enough to touch but maintaining careful distance. I had my lawyers draw up a contract. 6 months, starting today. You'll live here, in this suite. You'll attend events with me, meet with my board, play the role of my devoted fiancé. Victoria pulled out a folder, slid it across the coffee table. In return, $100,000, deposited monthly. At the end of 6 months, regardless of whether we continue the arrangement, you get a bonus of $200,000, a letter of recommendation from me personally, and connections to every major architectural firm in New York. Emma stared at the contract. That's almost $1 million. It's nothing compared to what I stand to lose if this doesn't work. Victoria took a long drink of wine. My father made good on his threat. Emergency board meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. They're going to try to vote me out as CEO. Can they do that? If they have enough votes, yes. My father controls 30%. He needs 21 more. There are 12 board members. If he can sway 7 of them, Victoria's hand trembled slightly. I lose everything. Emma looked at the woman across from her. Powerful, brilliant, terrified, and felt something shift in her chest. What do you need me to do? Be there, at the meeting. Show them that I'm serious, that this isn't a phase or a scandal. It's my life. Victoria leaned forward. I know it's asking a lot. These people will eat you alive if they sense weakness. But if you can hold your ground, show them you're not intimidated. I'm completely intimidated, I know. But they don't need to know that. Victoria smiled, sad and small. Fake it till you make it, right? Isn't that what they say? Emma picked up the contract, flipped through pages of dense legal language. This says I agree to maintain the appearance of a committed romantic relationship, including but not limited to public displays of affection, cohabitation, and shared social obligations. She looked up. What does that mean exactly? Victoria's cheeks colored slightly. Holding hands. Maybe kissing if cameras are present. Looking like we're... She trailed off. Like we're in love. But we're not. No. Victoria's voice was barely audible. We're not. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Can I ask you something? Emma set down the contract. Why women? If this is just about escaping an arranged marriage, why not find some guy who'd play along? It would be easier, less controversial. Because it wouldn't be true. Victoria's eyes met Emma's. I've known since I was 15 that I'm attracted to women. I've just never acted on it. Too risky, too dangerous for the company, too many variables. She laughed bitterly. I've lived 35 years in a cage I built myself, brick by brick, excuse by excuse. And now you're using me to break out. Yes. Victoria didn't flinch from the accusation. I'm using you, and you're using me. That's the arrangement. That's what makes it work. We both know exactly what this is. Emma thought about the contract, about $100,000 a month, about never sleeping on concrete again, about eating whenever she was hungry and showering whenever she wanted, and the simple dignity of having an address. She thought about the woman in front of her, who'd stood up to her father, humiliated her fiancé, risked everything for a chance at authenticity, even if that authenticity was built on a lie. I have conditions, Emma heard herself say. Victoria straightened. Name them. 1, I want to work, real work. I'm not going to be some kept woman sitting around eating bonbons. I need something to do with my time. Done. I'll set up a desk at Sterling Tech. You can consult on our sustainable housing project. 2, no lying to each other. I don't care what we tell the world, but between us, in private, we tell the truth. Victoria nodded slowly. Agreed. 3, when this is over, we end it cleanly. No drama, no mess. You give me my money and my recommendations, and we walk away. Of course. Victoria's voice was carefully neutral. And 4? Emma paused, uncertain. If at any point this becomes too much, if I need out, you let me go. No questions, no consequences. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. That one I can't agree to. What? If you leave in the middle of this, Emma, I'm finished. The board will use it as proof that this was all a stunt. I'll lose the company, my reputation, everything. Victoria's voice hardened. So no. I need your commitment. 6 months, no matter what. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. You know that better than anyone. Victoria stood, paced to the window. Look, I get it. This is scary. You don't know me, don't know if you can trust me. But I'm offering you a way out of hell, Emma, a chance to rebuild your life. All I'm asking is 6 months of your time. Emma stared at the contract, at the numbers that would change everything, at the door that led back to the streets, to invisibility, to slow death by 1,000 indignities. What happens at the end of 6 months? Emma asked quietly. Do we just announce a breakup? Thanks for the memories, see you around? We'll figure it out when we get there. Victoria turned from the window. Right now, I need to survive tomorrow. Will you help me? Emma picked up the pen sitting next to the contract. It was heavy, expensive, probably worth more than any meal she'd eaten in 3 months. I need you to understand something, Emma said. I'm not a strong person, Victoria. I'm barely holding myself together. If you're looking for someone brave and confident who can stand up to your father and your board and all those people who look at me like I'm garbage, I'm looking for someone who survived 3 months on the streets and didn't lose her spark. Victoria knelt in front of Emma, bringing them eye to eye. I saw it yesterday. That fire, that anger, that refusal to disappear. That's what I need. Not confidence, not bravery, just survival instinct. Can you do that? Emma looked into Victoria's gray eyes and saw her own desperation reflected back. 2 women drowning, reaching for each other not out of love, but necessity. Yeah, Emma whispered. I can do that. She signed the contract. Victoria exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might embarrass you so badly tomorrow that you won't. Victoria took Emma's hands, and the touch sent electricity up her arms. You're brilliant and talented and stronger than you know. They're going to underestimate you because of where you've been. Let them. Then prove them wrong. Emma laughed shakily. You have a lot of faith in someone you met 24 hours ago. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just desperate enough to believe in long shots. Victoria squeezed Emma's hands gently, then let go. It's late. You should sleep. Big day tomorrow. Emma stood, started toward the door, then turned back. Victoria? Why did you really choose me? Out of all the people you could have asked. Why a homeless woman you found outside your building? Victoria was quiet for so long that Emma thought she wouldn't answer. Then, because when you looked at me yesterday, you saw through all the bullshit. The money, the power, the empire. None of it impressed you. You saw someone trapped, same as you were trapped. She met Emma's eyes, and I thought, if I'm going to do this, if I'm really going to risk everything, I want to do it with someone who sees the real me. Even if that real me is just as lost and scared as she is. Emma felt something tighten in her chest. Something dangerous. Good night, Victoria. Good night, Emma. Emma walked back to her own suite, the contract tucked under her arm, and tried not to think about the way Victoria had looked at her. Like Emma was the answer to a question Victoria had been afraid to ask. She tried not to think about the way she'd looked back, because this was a business arrangement. Nothing more. 6 months of playing pretend, and then they'd both walk away with what they needed. No feelings, no complications, no risk. Emma looked at herself in the mirror, the woman in the Vera Wang dress who belonged in Victoria Sterling's world, and tried to believe her own lies. Tomorrow, she'd face a boardroom full of billionaires who wanted her gone. Tomorrow, she'd stand beside Victoria and pretend to be in love. Tomorrow, she'd begin the most dangerous performance of her life. She just hoped she'd survive it. The Sterling Tech boardroom occupied the entire top floor of the glass tower Emma had once huddled beneath. She'd barely slept, had spent the night practicing what to say, how to stand, trying to remember the woman she'd been before the streets had hollowed her out. Patricia had arrived at 6 a.m. with another outfit, a sharp black suit that made Emma look like she belonged in this world of power and money. She looked like a lie. Now she stood outside the boardroom with Victoria, who was reviewing notes on her tablet, perfectly composed except for the slight tremor in her hands. Ready? Victoria asked without looking up. No. Emma's voice came out steadier than she felt. Tell me again who I need to watch out for. My father, obviously. He'll try to discredit you, make you look like a gold digger or a con artist. Victoria finally met her eyes. Then there's Martin Chen, board member, old friend of my father's. He controls the Asian markets division. If my father gets him, he gets his whole block. That's 3 votes. Who's on your side? Potentially? Jennifer Okoye. She's progressive, came up through the ranks herself. And David Kim, gay, closeted, understands what it's like to hide. Victoria's jaw tightened, but they're both pragmatists. If they think supporting me will damage the company, they'll vote me out in a heartbeat. So what's the play? Show them you're not going anywhere. Show them I'm serious. Show them that Sterling Tech will survive this scandal and come out stronger. Victoria tucked her tablet away. And Emma? No matter what they say, no matter how cruel they get, you hold your ground. Understood? Emma nodded, throat dry. The boardroom doors opened and they walked in together. 12 people sat around a massive mahogany table. 11 turned to stare. The 12th, Richard Sterling, didn't even look up from his phone. Gentlemen, ladies. Victoria's voice was ice and steel. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I believe you all saw last night's news. Hard to miss. Martin Chen, a man in his 60s with sharp eyes, gestured at Emma. Is this the woman causing all the fuss? This is Emma Collins, my partner. Victoria pulled out a chair, nodded for Emma to sit beside her. Emma, these are the Sterling Tech board members, the people who'll decide our company's future in the next hour. Emma sat, acutely aware of how everyone was looking at her, assessing, judging, finding her lacking. Let's skip the pleasantries. Richard finally looked up. Victoria, you've put us in an impossible position. The Hartwell merger is dead. James's family has already released a statement distancing themselves from Sterling Tech. We're looking at a 20% stock drop when markets open in, he checked his watch, 15 minutes. Then we'll recover. Victoria's voice didn't waver. We've weathered worse. Have we? Jennifer Okoye, a black woman with kind eyes that had gone hard, leaned forward. Victoria, I've supported you for 8 years, voted with you on every major decision. But this? She gestured between Victoria and Emma. This isn't a business decision. This is personal drama that's going to cost us billions. It's my life, Jennifer. I'm allowed to have one. Not when you're CEO of a publicly traded company. Martin Chen slapped the table. Your personal life affects thousands of employees, millions of shareholders. You don't get to have a midlife crisis on their dime. Emma felt Victoria's tension beside her, saw the way she was holding herself together by sheer will, and something inside Emma, something that had survived 3 months of hell, snapped into place. Excuse me. Emma's voice cut through the murmurs. Can I say something? 12 pairs of eyes swung to her. Richard sneered. By all means, let's hear what the street urchin has to contribute. Victoria's hand found Emma's under the table, squeezed hard. A warning or a plea? Emma wasn't sure. You're all sitting here talking about Victoria like she's a commodity, like her entire value is tied to how much money she makes you. Emma met Richard's eyes. Has it occurred to any of you that maybe, just maybe, she's a human being who deserves happiness? Happiness? Martin Chen laughed. She's the CEO of an $8 billion company. She doesn't get happiness. She gets responsibility, which she's upheld brilliantly for 8 years. Emma found her footing now, remembering how to argue, how to present a case. Sterling Tech's value has tripled under her leadership. You've expanded into 12 new markets. Your sustainability initiatives have won international awards. All of that was Victoria, and all of that means nothing if she can't control her personal life. Her personal life is that she fell in love. Emma's voice rose. That's it. That's the great crime you're all clutching your pearls about. She fell in love with a woman instead of marrying the man you chose for her. The silence was absolute. David Kim, who hadn't spoken yet, cleared his throat. Miss Collins, while we appreciate your passion, you have to understand, this isn't about homophobia. It's about the optics of canceling a major business merger 3 days before the wedding for someone you just met. Someone I met 3 months ago, Victoria interjected smoothly. I just didn't tell anyone because I knew exactly how you'd all react. Emma's head whipped toward Victoria. That wasn't the story they'd discussed, but Victoria just squeezed her hand again, silently asking her to play along. 3 months. Jennifer Okoye's eyebrows rose. You've been seeing her for 3 months and no one knew? I kept it quiet, protected her privacy, protected the company. Victoria's voice was steady, and Emma realized she was witnessing a master manipulator at work. But yes, 3 months. Long enough to know this is real. Richard laughed. Cold. Cutting. Real? Victoria, we investigated her. Did you know that? After last night's spectacle, I had a PI look into your girlfriend. He pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Emma Collins, 31 years old, lost her job a year ago, evicted, has been living on the streets for 3 months. You literally picked up a homeless woman and dressed her up to avoid marrying James Hartwell. The silence that followed was crushing. Emma felt every eye on her, felt the shame burning through her skin. Victoria had gone very still beside her. Is that true? Jennifer asked quietly. Victoria, is that true? Victoria's hand tightened on Emma's so hard it hurt. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then she stood, pulling Emma up with her. Yes, Victoria said clearly. Emma was homeless when I met her. She'd lost everything through no fault of her own. A pension scandal that destroyed hundreds of lives. She was sleeping outside my building because she had nowhere else to go. Richard smiled triumphantly. So you admit this is a farce, a stunt, a desperate bid to... I admit that I saw a brilliant woman who'd been failed by the system. A talented architect who specialized in sustainable housing. The exact field my company invests billions in. A survivor who hadn't given up, hadn't lost her humanity, even when the world had forgotten she existed. Victoria's voice shook, but her gaze was steady. And I fell in love with her, not despite where she came from, but because of the strength it took to survive it. Emma's throat closed. Because Victoria was lying, they'd known each other barely 2 days. But somehow it sounded like truth. This is absurd. Martin Chen shook his head. You expect us to believe you fell in love with a homeless woman in 3 months and decided to blow up a $1 billion merger? No. Victoria let go of Emma's hand, moved to stand at the head of the table. I expect you to believe that I built this company from nothing, that I've given you 8 years of unprecedented growth, that I've earned the right to choose who I love without losing everything I've worked for. It's not about what you've earned, Victoria. It's about what the shareholders will see when markets open. Victoria glanced at the screen on the wall, where the CNBC pre-market show was running. Look. Everyone turned. The headline read, Sterling Tech CEO comes out, cancels Hartwell merger. Stock surges on speculation of new direction. Surges? Jennifer leaned forward. How is that possible? Because the market loves a story. Victoria's voice was calm now, confident. And ours is a good one. Billionaire CEO chooses authenticity over arranged marriage, cancels controversial merger that many analysts thought would dilute Sterling Tech's core values, pledges to double down on sustainability initiatives. You leaked this? Richard's face was purple. You manipulated. I played the game, Father. Same as you taught me. Victoria turned to the board. Vote me out if you want. But know this. The market is rallying around this decision. Our key demographics, millennials, Gen Z, progressive investors, they're celebrating. Sterling Tech is trending on every social platform. We're not damaged goods. We're the company that chose humanity over profit. That's worth billions in brand value alone. Emma watched Victoria command the room and felt something crack open in her chest. This woman was magnificent, brilliant, strategic, unbreakable, and using her as a prop. The board members were murmuring, checking their phones, looking at the crawl of news at the bottom of the screen. Sterling Tech stock up 12% in pre-market trading. #$LovesWins trending with Sterling Tech references. Investment firms requesting meetings to discuss new sustainable housing initiatives. David Kim spoke quietly. It's working. The scandal is actually working. For now. Richard growled. But if this falls apart, if your little romance proves to be the sham I know it is, then you can say I told you so at my resignation. Victoria met her father's eyes. But until then, I'm still CEO. And I'm asking for your trust. 6 months. Give me 6 months to prove this won't destroy the company. If I'm wrong, I'll step down voluntarily. The board members exchanged glances. Emma could see the calculations happening, the weighing of risks and rewards. Finally, Jennifer Okoye spoke. I want monthly reports, detailed analysis of how this is affecting our brand, our partnerships, our bottom line. Done. And I want to see real commitment, Martin Chen added. Not just holding hands at galas. Real integration of Emma into company operations, public events, strategic planning. Victoria nodded. Emma will be consulting on our sustainable housing project, full transparency. And if the stock drops by more than 15%, Richard's voice was cold. Then I resign. Victoria's voice didn't waver, but it won't. I know this company. I know our investors. This is the right move. Another long silence. Then Jennifer nodded. 6 months. But Victoria, don't make us regret this. One by one, the other board members agreed, except Richard, who stood and walked out without a word. When the door closed behind him, Victoria's knees buckled slightly. Emma caught her elbow, steadied her. You did it, Emma whispered. We did it. Victoria's smile was exhausted, but genuine. Thank you. For standing there while they eviscerated you. For not running. They walked out of the boardroom together, and Emma felt the weight of 100 eyes watching from offices and cubicles. News of the board meeting had clearly spread. In the elevator, alone finally, Victoria leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. I need you to know something, she said quietly. What I said in there, about falling in love with you, was part of the performance, I know. Victoria opened her eyes, and something in her expression made Emma's breath catch. Was it? What? Because standing in that boardroom, defending you, watching you hold your ground against my father. Victoria's voice dropped. I'm not sure anymore what's real and what's performance. Emma's heart hammered. Victoria, we barely know each other. I know. It's insane. It's impossible. Victoria pushed off the wall. But I can't stop thinking about the fact that you're the first person in years who sees me. Really sees me. Not my money or my company or my potential usefulness, just me. That's not love. That's gratitude mixed with adrenaline and desperation. Maybe. Victoria stepped closer, and Emma could smell that expensive perfume again, could see flecks of gold in her gray eyes. Or maybe it's the beginning of something real. Either way, we have 6 months to figure it out. The elevator doors opened. Victoria walked out, and Emma followed, her mind spinning. This was supposed to be simple, a transaction. 6 months of pretend, then they'd both walk away. But nothing about the way Victoria had looked at her in that elevator had felt simple. That evening, Emma sat in her hotel suite, staring at her bank account. The first deposit had arrived, $100,000, more money than she'd ever seen in her life. She could leave right now, break the contract, give back the money, disappear before this got more complicated. But she thought about Victoria standing in that boardroom, defending her. Thought about the way Victoria's hand had trembled when she said, I fell in love with her. Thought about 6 months in a warm bed with regular meals and the dignity of being seen. Thought about Victoria's question, was it part of the performance? Emma didn't have an answer. 3 days later, Emma stood in Sterling Tech's architectural division, presenting her first project proposal, a sustainable housing development for homeless individuals in New York. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd spent a week researching, drafting, designing, getting back into the work she loved, remembering who she'd been before she'd lost everything. The division heads listened intently, asked questions, treated her like a professional, not a charity case. When she finished, the lead architect, a woman named Sarah, nodded slowly. This is good work, Emma. Really good. I'd like to move forward with preliminary plans. After the meeting, Emma found Victoria waiting in the hallway. How'd it go? They liked it. They're going to develop it. Emma couldn't keep the smile off her face. I'm actually working again, doing something meaningful. Victoria's answering smile was warm, genuine. Told you. You're brilliant. They stood there, close enough that Emma could feel Victoria's warmth, could see the way her eyes had softened. Victoria, can I ask you something? That day you found me outside your building. Why did you really stop? Out of all the homeless people you must see every day, why me? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. You looked at me like you wanted to throw a punch, like under all that desperation and exhaustion you still had fight left, and I thought, I've spent my whole life being polite, being strategic, playing the game. What would it be like to have that fire? So, I'm your rebellion, maybe. Or maybe you're my wake-up call. Victoria reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind Emma's ear, an intimate gesture that made Emma's skin tingle. 6 months ago, I was planning to marry a man I didn't love, build a life I didn't want, pretend to be someone I'm not. Now I'm free. Because of you. We barely know each other. Then let's fix that. Victoria smiled. Dinner? Tonight? No cameras, no performance. Just 2 women getting to know each other. Emma should say no. Should keep distance. Maintain boundaries. Remember this was a business arrangement. Instead, she heard herself say, okay. That night they sat in Victoria's penthouse. Not the hotel, but her actual home, and talked. About Emma's childhood in Michigan, her dreams of building affordable housing. About Victoria's lonely childhood as the heir to a tech empire, how she'd buried herself in work to avoid facing who she really was. They drank wine and laughed, and somewhere around midnight, Emma realized she was actually enjoying herself. Not performing, not pretending. Just being. Can I tell you something terrible? Emma asked, slightly drunk. Please. When you first propositioned me, I thought you were insane. I was planning to steal the hotel bathrobes and sell them. Victoria burst out laughing. Those robes are worth about $40 each. You would have made maybe $80. I was desperate. $80 is 2 weeks of meals if you're careful. Victoria's laughter faded. I can't imagine what that was like, being that desperate. It was like drowning. Every day, just trying to keep your head above water, and everyone walking past, stepping over you like you're already dead. Emma's voice dropped. You saved my life, Victoria. Whatever else happens, I need you to know that. Victoria reached across the table, took Emma's hand. You saved mine too. You just don't know it yet. They sat there, hands clasped, something electric passing between them, and Emma thought, this is dangerous. This is how people get hurt. But she didn't let go. 3 months into their arrangement, Emma woke up in Victoria's bed. They hadn't planned it. Had fallen asleep watching a movie. Emma's head on Victoria's shoulder, Victoria's arm around her waist. Nothing sexual, just comfortable. Emma carefully extracted herself, tried not to wake Victoria. But Victoria's eyes opened anyway, gray in the morning light. Good morning, Victoria murmured. Morning. I should go back to my suite. Or you could stay. Victoria's voice was soft. We could have breakfast. Pretend this is real for a little while. Emma's heart clenched. Victoria, I know. I know this is an arrangement. I know we have rules and boundaries and an expiration date. Victoria sat up and her hair was messy, her face vulnerable without makeup. But Emma, somewhere in the last 3 months you became my best friend. The person I want to talk to about everything, and I don't know how to handle that. We can't do this. Emma backed away. We can't blur the lines like this. Why not? Because in 3 months, this ends. You get your company secured, I get my money, and we walk away. That's the deal. What if I don't want to walk away? The words hung in the air like a confession. Emma felt panic rising. You don't mean that. You're grateful. Or lonely, or I'm in love with you. Victoria stood, crossed to Emma. I know that's not the deal. I know it's complicated and messy, and probably the worst possible timing, but it's true. Somewhere between defending you to my board and watching you present your housing project and falling asleep with you in my arms, I fell in love with you. Emma couldn't breathe. No, you can't. I can't? Victoria's laugh was pained. Emma, I've spent 3 months with you. I know how you take your coffee, what makes you laugh, what you dream about. I know you're afraid of commitment, because everyone you ever trusted left. I know you think you're broken because of what the streets did to you. And I love you anyway. All of it. Even the broken parts. Stop. Emma's voice cracked. Please stop. Why? Because you don't feel it too? Victoria stepped closer. Because I've seen the way you look at me, Emma. I've felt the way your hand tightens on mine when we're at events. That's not performance. That's real. It can't be real. Emma was crying now. Don't you get it? I'm a mess, Victoria. I have trauma and trust issues, and I don't even know how to be a person anymore, let alone someone's girlfriend. Victoria wiped Emma's tears with gentle fingers. You don't have to be anything but yourself. That's all I want. Emma pulled away. I need to think. I can't do this right now. She practically ran from the penthouse, back to her hotel suite, her heart hammering. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was a business arrangement. 6 months of pretend, then freedom. But Victoria had gone and made it real. Had fallen in love. And the terrifying part? Emma had too. The final month of their arrangement arrived with the weight of inevitability. Emma had avoided Victoria as much as possible, claiming she was busy with work, with project proposals, with anything that kept distance between them. They still attended events together, played the perfect couple for cameras. But backstage, there was only silence. Victoria didn't push, didn't demand answers, just looked at Emma with those gray eyes full of patience and heartbreak. The Sterling Tech Board meeting that would determine Victoria's permanent status as CEO was scheduled for Friday. Emma marked it on her calendar like an execution date. On Thursday night, Richard Sterling showed up at Emma's hotel suite. Miss Collins, we need to talk. Emma should have closed the door. Instead, she let him in. Richard walked to the window, looked out at the city. My daughter is in love with you. You know that, right? It's complicated. It's simple. He turned, and his expression was less hostile than she'd expected. almost resigned. Victoria has been performing her entire life. The perfect daughter, the perfect CEO, the perfect merger candidate. I pushed her into that. I thought I was protecting her, protecting the company. He laughed bitterly. Instead, I was suffocating her. Why are you telling me this? Because tomorrow, I'm going to vote to keep Victoria as CEO. I'm going to publicly support her relationship with you, and I'm going to try to be a better father, though I've probably destroyed any chance of that. Emma stared. Why? Because 3 months ago, I saw Victoria stand in a boardroom and fight for you, fight for herself, and I realized I'd never seen her fight for anything that wasn't the company before. Richard's voice softened. You make her happy, Miss Collins. Real happy. Not the performance she's been giving us for 35 years, and whatever my failures as a father, I want that for her. After he left, Emma sat in the darkness for hours. She thought about Victoria defending her to the board, about late-night conversations and laughter over wine, about waking up with Victoria's arm around her and feeling, for the first time in years, safe. She thought about being loved, really loved, not despite her brokenness, but because of everything she'd survived. At 3 a.m., Emma walked to Victoria's penthouse, let herself in with the key Victoria had given her months ago. Victoria was awake, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, looking at the city lights. I'm terrified, Emma said from the doorway. Victoria turned, and hope flared in her eyes. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of the fact that I've fallen in love with you and I don't know how to do this. How to be someone's girlfriend when I'm still figuring out how to be a person again. Emma. But I want to try. Emma crossed the room, sat beside Victoria. I want to try being broken and loved at the same time. I want to try building something real with you, if you'll have me. Victoria set down her wine, took Emma's face in her hands. If I'll have you? Emma, you're all I want. You've been all I wanted since the moment you looked at me with fire in your eyes and called me out for my privilege. I was kind of a bitch that day. You were perfect. Victoria smiled through tears. You've always been perfect. They kissed then. Their first real kiss, not for cameras or performance, but for themselves. It was soft and tentative and tasted like wine and tears and new beginnings. When they pulled apart, Emma whispered, What happens now? Now we figure it out, together. Victoria rested her forehead against Emma's. No more contract, no more arrangement, just us. Two women who found each other in the most unlikely way and decided to build something real. Your board is going to love that. They'll deal with it. We're making them too much money for them to complain. Victoria laughed. Besides, your housing project is already being hailed as revolutionary. You're making Sterling Tech look good. Emma pulled back to look at Victoria properly. You really love me, even knowing how messed up I am? Especially knowing that. Because you survived. You fought. You didn't let the world destroy you. Victoria kissed her gently. That's the woman I fell in love with. Not the performance, not the pretend. The survivor who still has fight left. 6 months after Victoria Sterling had offered a homeless woman a wedding dress and a chance at a new life, Emma Collins stood in the Sterling Tech boardroom once more. But this time, she wasn't terrified. This time, she belonged. The sustainable housing project has been approved for construction, Emma announced to the board. Ground breaks next month. We're calling it Haven Heights, 60 units of affordable housing integrated with green spaces, community gardens, and job training facilities. Jennifer Okoye smiled. This is excellent work, Emma. Sterling Tech is proud to be associated with this initiative. After the meeting, Victoria caught Emma's hand. Proud of you. Couldn't have done it without you believing in me. They walked out together, no longer pretending, no longer performing, just two women in love, building a life together one brave choice at a time. That evening, on Victoria's penthouse balcony overlooking the city, Emma said, You know what's funny? 6 months ago, I was sleeping under your building, thinking my life was over, and you were planning to marry a man you didn't love, thinking yours was. And now? Now I'm designing buildings again. You're free. And Emma trailed off. Happy, Victoria finished. We're happy. Emma looked out at the city that had nearly destroyed her, that had also saved her. You really think this can work? Us? I think we've already done the impossible. Victoria wrapped her arms around Emma from behind, and Emma leaned into her warmth. Everything else is just details. Somewhere below, the city hummed with millions of stories, of struggle and survival, of loss and redemption, of people finding each other in the most unlikely ways. And on a penthouse balcony high above it all, two women who'd saved each other stood together, ready to face whatever came next. Not because they were fearless, but because they'd learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let yourself be loved. Even when, especially when, you're still learning how to love yourself. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please follow the channel for more stories of love, resilience, and hope. And remember, no matter how broken you feel, you deserve love. You deserve a chance. You deserve to be seen. Take care of yourselves out there. Until next time.